Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 60 with Charlie and Justin. Justin, how are you doing on this great Saturday morning?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. You got a workout in already.
Oh, yeah. Getting ready to get the second one in after we're done here.
And by second one, I assume you mean cardio?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. I'm really enjoying being able to run/walk every day again. Like, no real hip injuries or no knee injuries, so to speak, of right now. So,
well, that's the name of the game, is consistency, which coincidentally enough, I got an update from a client today who said that she feels like she's one of those people that needs consistency with her training, with her nutrition. She said that sometimes, she can get off track easily and get deterred easily, and then it causes her to regress, which obviously I think that's the case with everybody.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think
I don't
everybody.
think there's anybody who, maybe some people, but genetically not me, that can get away with not being consistent with things. So, I mean, it was even yesterday with my coach. We were talking, actually the day previous, I think it was Thursday. My coach Austin and I were talking, and he said that you can tell that I'm meticulous and pretty well regimented with things, because when you look at my weight gain over the course of like X weeks or X months, it's like extremely predictable, like almost to a T. And I told him, I said, I never notice it, because when I put it in, I log my weight Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then that's it. So Monday I put it in, Wednesday I put it in, Friday I put it in. So I never really noticed the trends because I don't look back. The only thing I look for is, did I go up from last time? Did I stay the same from last time? Or did I go down from last time? That's really all that I'm concerned with. But then when I look big picture at it, I'm like, wow, being consistent does pay off, because I could pretty much tell you what I'm going to be next week.
Right.
So I think that there's not a person in this planet that couldn't benefit from being more consistent with stuff.
Right. Well, that was like what we were talking about earlier in the week when I sent you my midweek update for like weight and stuff, and what hadn't changed. Everything else was consistent. So where was the issue? You know what I mean? And it makes it easy when you're consistent all the time to, if you hit a little hurdle or a roadblock, to pretty quickly work your way through it and find what the issue is.
Well, I think that's why it's important for plans to be sustainable.
Yeah.
You and I talk about it all the time, and that's always, honest to God, that's the number one first conversation that I have with people when we work through their nutrition or through their training is what you're doing going to be sustainable for you long term?
Right.
Because nutrition, I think, and I've said it before on several episodes, I think that people fail not because of lack of willpower, but because of lack of sustainability in their programming.
Yes.
So they just need something that's quick, easy, and effective for them. So whatever I deem easy is going to vary from person to person, but not easy in the sense of easy to do, but I guess the better term would be simple. Yes. Most people need to simplify things as far as meal prepping goes, because they want to do it at an expedited rate. They don't want to spend a ton of time getting their food together. Some people don't want to spend a lot of time in the gym. You and I would prefer the opposite. I'd like to live in the gym if I could. But So I think that
someday.
Yeah. I think that in order to be consistent, you have to have a plan that's sustainable. And some people don't do that. Therefore, you can start off of the gate, with a flash or with a bang, and then all of a sudden it kind of burns out. And I think that's the perfect discussion for a day like today, because we're already into January now for New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
And I think that people put together these good plans and these effective plans, but it's not necessarily sustainable for them to go 0 to 60.
Right. And that is a great idea to talk about a little bit, is like, so if you are a New Year's resolutioner and you put together this great plan, and listen, I have been the guy that put together the plan for the year that was going to be the end-all, be-all to being huge. And then by the end of January, realized that it wasn't going to work because I couldn't allocate enough time to it. So I just quit completely. So instead of just quitting completely, take a minute or a day to look at your plan and try to simplify it, like Charlie said, to make it sustainable. So instead of having a complex workout set up that takes an hour to get everything set up before you even started, break it down to 4 or 5 movements a day. Break your meals down to single ingredient foods that are really easy to cook for the whole week, and that kind of stuff. Those are big keys that whenever we first started working together, that really helped me stay successful. Mm-hmm. Because what I was doing before I started working with you was tough.
Well, I think that as you get better and as you get more experience with this stuff, what you deem as sustainable grows bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk strictly physical. When you first started your weight loss journey 2 years ago, you didn't just start running and
No.
Doing triathlons and lifting every day at 3 a.m. None of that. It was all gradual.
Right.
And we kind of built on it, and you literally just started walking for a little bit.
Yeah, really. And it's funny for me, like, to look back at that because, like, we talk about it all the time, but when I say I used to go for a walk after work, I guess it's really hard to paint the picture. I should have taken more pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I should have listened to my coaches, you and my dad and everybody else, to take more pictures and document along the way, because, like, what it looked like to go for a walk at 500 pounds, 515 pounds in work boots, bib overalls. I mean, heck, sometimes it was, after work in the wintertime and rainy, I would wear my work raincoat and just walk around this little park. And it's a wee little park on the way home from work. And it was like the size of the little parking lot we're sitting in now to record. And it would be one lap. Took me almost 40 minutes to do.
Yeah.
And to now, I'm getting ready. When we're done here, I'm going to go to the track and run 3 miles. Well, walk 3 miles. But it just doesn't make it's hard to explain, like, what that means, because that's all it takes, really, for anybody to become successful, is just to allocate that little bit of extra effort, that little bit extra dedication.
Well, and then step aside from the physical and then go on to the time management side or the emotional side. Then as you get better at things, you can plan a lot. I guess you can plan a lot better or a lot more efficiently.
Yes.
For like meals, for example, with me, I like to keep things basic as possible. But I could meal prep pretty effectively, on one day or in the mornings. Like right now, for example, I just do all my food in the morning for the whole day. So I don't have to meal prep on a Sunday. Like some people spend Sundays doing it and they get it ready for the week. For me, not having Sundays free or Saturdays free or any day free for that matter, I just have a certain amount of time specifically directed towards prepping food first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to the point now where I can do it efficiently, do it effectively, and have it done. But when I first started this whole process, I wouldn't be able to get that many meals together that quickly.
Right.
Like I go through this routine. So I think that consistency will help what you deem as sustainable grow a lot bigger.
Right.
Because, I mean, a year or two ago, if you would have said that walking 3 miles, running 3 miles every day would be sustainable, that would be a joke.
It was literally a joke, because a year and a half ago, even, whenever I was training, we were training every day and stuff. I said about a year and a half ago, I said I want to do a 5K a day in May, and I got to about 7 days, and was too sore, too tired, and skipped a day. Mm-hmm. So, and now, it's this. I've done a 5K every day since before Christmas.
Yep.
This year. So,
well, look at the time allocation too. Where because that's one thing that pops in my mind. I'm just thinking, if I were to do what you did, like for right now, if you take my life and you put and say I have to walk 3 miles every day, my immediate reaction would be that's not sustainable because I don't have time to do that.
Right.
Now, if it was important to me, I know that I would have the time or find the time to do it.
Right.
So I would take a look at my schedule. I'd say, okay, Justin, I can't do 3 miles, but I can do a half mile every day. And then I'm going to see how long that takes. I'm going to multiply it by 6 if I'm doing half mile. And then I'm going to find a way to fit those 3 miles in there somehow.
Right.
And then it will become more sustainable as I learn to manage my time better.
Yes.
So I think that with New Year's, again, going back to kind of how we started on this track, is it's important to think about the progression of your goals, not necessarily what the end goal is. So a lot of people will say, by the end of the year, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Okay, that's awesome. How are you going to lose the first 5?
Yeah.
Or the first 10, and then after you do that, it's going to get more difficult. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to upregulate your training, or what are you going to do with your nutrition? You kind of have to have a long plan in place.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way because you have to change things along the way. Mm-hmm. You have to change things on a weekly basis almost. But if you have something, like you always say, the roadmap.
Yeah.
If you have the map, you're going to know where you're going. And I think that some people get so motivated for New Year's resolutions that they pick these grand goals with no idea of how they're going to achieve them.
Right.
So I think that's super important to discuss now. And then not only that, but going forward in the future episodes, I think that for me personally, I want to continue to have this conversation about resolutions to make sure that I'm on track.
Yeah, and I'm hopefully that we have listeners that are on a New Year's resolution track, that if we keep talking about it all the way into the summertime, and late fall, if we're still talking about people's resolutions, our plans, our goals for this year, maybe, just maybe, we could help somebody stay on track with theirs for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the goal for me, and I know for you as well, is ultimately that a goal for this podcast is to help people succeed and chase their dreams.
Yep.
I know that kind of sounds corny to use the name as like what a phrase, but
that's why the name is the name.
That's why it is what it is. Like, everything we do is predicated off of a dream that we've had, or in dream, I don't mean like while we're sleeping, dreaming about rainbows and unicorns. I'm talking like you daydreaming about success, or daydreaming about getting a promotion or a raise, or losing weight, or getting married and having kids and buying a house, that kind of stuff. It's all you have to do is think about it and want it, and then go for it. I'm not saying that every single thing that we think about or go or want, we're going to get.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not ever going to stop trying to get it. Ever. So, and that's, I hope to try to help with people to get that.
And I've used the saying before, for someone who is trying to conceptualize what dream means as far as their own life, like they don't know what they want to do. And the saying that I was told was, never give up on something you can't go a day without thinking.
Yes.
So like if I think about bodybuilding every day, then that obviously is indicative that that's something I need to follow. I need to answer that call.
Yeah, I mean, never. I love that. Never give up on something, someone, somewhere, someplace.
Yeah, yep.
That
someone,
you can't
somewhere.
Go
right.
without thinking about. Like,
yep.
I think that is like if I were to break the Chasing Dreams podcast down into a definition, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I love it.
What do you do with people then? Because this is an issue that I've run into, unfortunately, kind of frequently with people, is what do you do with people who don't know what they want? Because that's hard, because that happens. I bet there's probably a lot of people listening to this. I work with clients, I have friends, family. I have, a multitude of people in my life that know that they want to do something. And this was me too.
Yeah.
They know that they want to do something. They feel like they can do something worthwhile, to bring value to their life, bring value to other people's lives, but they don't know how they want to do it. They don't know what to do.
So I kind of have an answer. I don't know if this is going to be a good answer or not, but what I do, and I never thought of it from this angle, but I think I have the answer to what I do for this question. So I know that kind of sounded like a weird answer, but so when somebody starts talking to me about losing weight, I always ask them, well, what's your goal? Like, where do you want to go? You know what I mean? Where's the end game? And then I always tell them that I don't have an end game. I hate the word end, because then this is over, and then I'm going to get fat again, and the party's over. And and typically it's 50 pounds. I want to lose 50 pounds. Or I want to be 200 pounds. Or I want to be 195. Cool, that's awesome. What do you want to be at the end of the week? And then whatever they give an answer. So then I say, how do you want to get there? Because I have an answer, and how I try to explain it is I try to explain my goals to them. So my goal in life is to be successful, but ultimately my goal is to help people, as many people as I possibly can. And even if that is just making somebody smile. So when I drive down the road and I drive past somebody that's out in the pouring down rain, turning a stop sign at a construction site, I make sure I wave at them. I don't care if they wave back. I don't care if they're upset or mad at me because I waved because they think I'm being a jag. I'm trying to make that person smile, because I'm trying to make everybody I come encounter with day better. So how I started doing that was almost 2 years ago now. I got selfish. I turned selfish enough to make myself smile, make myself happy, and chase my goals, my dreams. And since I've done that, everybody around me, I feel like I've impacted people around me in such a positive way that I know that selfishness is a bad thing at times, but when used as a tool to build your empire, If you use selfishness to build your own personal like empire or your own personal journey, to where and then you have time, and then you have the ability and the effort and the want to help other people. That's how I try to explain it, because I tell everybody when they try to want to lose weight, you have to get selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You have to not worry about what your wife's cooking for dinner. You have to not worry about what's in the cupboards. You have to not worry about what your kids are drinking or what your coworkers are drinking, pops and, going out for beers after work. And you have to get selfish and say, okay, this is what Justin wants and this is what Justin needs. And I'm going to do what Justin needs so I can do what everybody else wants and needs later. And I had to use it for myself on a scale of, this guy couldn't walk to Walmart from 10 spots back.
Uh-huh.
So if I wanted to go grocery shop with my wife, she had to drop me off at the door. I would sit down or lean on something until she got inside, and then we would in and out as fast as possible. So, it was literal. I had to become selfish so we could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I explain it.
So you think that if someone doesn't know what they want to do, because you specifically used weight loss, but I guess it could be used for someone, because that's really the essence of the question that I'm getting at is, what if someone doesn't know what they want to do? If it's New Year's and they say, what are your New Year's resolutions? I don't have any. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I want to get better. I want to improve my life, but I don't really know how. I think that, like you said, somebody getting selfish could identify where they have these little holes in their life.
Yeah.
So if it's, me, and I say, okay, I'm going to get selfish for a little bit. I'm going to take time off of work. Well, that obviously shows that I need to do a better job of managing my time, because the thing that I'm wanting the most is rest, relaxation, kind of getting away from something.
Right.
Or if you say to someone, hey, be selfish, and they decide to go for a walk and get outside, and they want to be more active. So maybe that points to a fat loss or a weight loss thing. And I also think that, because again, this is speaking from experience myself, is your ability to help other people increases exponentially the more you help yourself.
Right.
So I got to the point in my life where, and I'm going to give a disclaimer here to not make it sound like I'm some type of servant, or some type of missionary here. But I was doing a lot for other people and trying to give back as much as I could with coaching and, all the different things that I was involved with, even training and working with my online clients, where it was it wasn't free, but it more or less was free. And I got to the point where I was helping so many people, and my own personal health, not literal as in physical health, but mental health, emotional health, that started to decline because I was just burning the candle at both ends. And I needed to take a step back. And for me, the way that I helped myself, which then eventually led me to help other people, was to set boundaries.
Right.
So set boundaries of my time, set boundaries of my money, set boundaries of my mental state and who I waste mental energy on, that sort of thing. So I kind of I look at it as a piece of fabric, and I had to cut fabric out and really fine tune and kind of curtail away the things that I didn't want in my life. So if someone said, here's a perfect example, that's a recent example nonetheless, so it fits really well. I always lift in the mornings at 5 a.m. And I have about a 2.5 hour window before I start school. So from 5 a.m. I'm at the gym until 7:30. Now, for people who are unfamiliar with the area that I work and teach in, the school is
across the street.
In a literal sense.
We're looking at the gym and we're sitting in front of the school.
Yeah. I can see both of them right now. So it's right there.
Right.
So I effectively have basically that whole 2.5 hour window.
Right.
I have recently allocated that specifically to training for me. Now, I have a gentleman that wanted to train in the mornings because he drives trucks. He goes back and forth to Michigan twice, which is a pretty long drive.
Yeah.
So he goes there every day twice. So he works insane hours. He's constantly on the road. So the only time that he can train would be a brief window in the mornings twice a week. So he wanted to go. I told him my situation. I typically train, and then I shower, and then I go to the gym. Well, he wanted to do 6. and I would train them from about 6 to about 7:15, and that would give me 15 minutes to shower real quick and head over to school, and that was fine because it really didn't detract from my workouts. What I did is I made it on my my lower volume days. Pretty much everything's low volume, but the workouts that I can do the quickest or go the quickest just naturally, those would be the days that I would train him, right?
Right.
Well, then he asked if he could come a little bit earlier at like 5:30, which wouldn't allow me to train before because the gym opens at 5, and then 5:30 to 6:30 it wouldn't allow for an effective time window to train afterwards. So I told him, no, I can't do that. And I explained it. I said, this is the only time that I have to train. Literally, it's the only time I have because I go to school the rest of the day. I coach right after school, and then I train people all night, and then the gym's closed. So it's literally my only option. I have no other choice but to lift first thing in the morning at 5 a.m. when the gym opens. And in the past, I'd always been hesitant of having that conversation.
Right.
Like, I don't want to have that conversation with someone because they'll feel that I'm selfish, or they'll feel that I'm not invested in them, or, you know. And he said, okay, absolutely, I understand that. We'll just stay at 6. And it was easy.
Yeah.
Likewise, when it came to training people, with like nutrition clients, for example, I got to the point where I was doing so much work and more or less for free, for pennies, and people kept telling me, people that I know that are coaches and have done this, like my coach was like, you need to raise the prices, raise the prices, raise the prices. So raised them once, hesitantly, but no one cared. Did it a second time, no one cared. Did it a third time, no one cared. In fact, I got more trafficking through my services as the prices went up. Now, keep in mind, I didn't raise the prices of the people that I was already working with.
Right.
So they stay prorated. You know, they're kind of grandfathered in. They don't have to pay anymore. But when I started setting boundaries for myself, I noticed that I got better, the people around me got better, and no one was distasteful when I set them. They understood, like, this is his time. And it kind of go back to, like, we talked about the past couple weeks. When you're passionate about something, people understand that.
Yep.
So people are understanding of my boundaries that I set in the gym with my time. People are really respectful of that. And I think that the more I do that, the more respect I get.
Agreed. It's starting to happen for me now too. Like, so like there's a few people that I told I was going at 3 o'clock. Like, my wife's on board. She's cool. She doesn't complain. And it directly affects her.
Yeah.
Because my alarm goes off at 2:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then goes off again. And then goes off again. So, you know, it directly affects what she does. Because it wakes her up, and it's going to wake the baby up. You know what I mean? So, and because we're both in agreement that I'm not going to stop going to the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
Because she loves the way that I'm happier now.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want me to not be happier now. You know, so that's going to happen. So obviously I know when the baby gets here, we're going to have to figure stuff out, but it'll be all right. At
this point in your life, that's one of the very few non-negotiables that you have.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like you're pretty flexible, you're pretty adaptable, but for your own mental state, and then for the mental state of others, because if you're in a good mood, others are in a good mood, that is something that needs to stay in place. Like, this is the standard. This is what I have to do. I don't ask for a lot, but I ask for this little window.
Yep. Give me one in the morning and one very late in the evening.
Yep.
And I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
But but I have people have asked me to go to the gym, and they're like, "Hey, can I lift with you?" Yeah, cool. When? And they're like, "Well, when do you go?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm at Flex for every day at 0300. So whenever you want to come, just let me know." What is 0300? What is that? 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh no, I'm not doing that. You're crazy. Why? I get up for work at 3 o'clock anyway. So if I just get up a little bit earlier, I can get my workout in before I go to work.
Yep.
So, that was literally it was like such a selfish thought. And that's why I think that's when I started going to the gym in the morning is when I really decided that selfishness is not a bad thing, because I was training in the evening for this whole time.
Yeah.
And I would work, I would get up at 3, and by the time I'd be done with work, it'd be sometimes 7 o'clock at night. And then I would train until 9 by the time we do lift and do cardio. And I'm smoked because I train to exhaustion.
Sure.
And then I do cardio pretty much to exhaustion. So now I'm completely smoked, and I eat more because I'm training harder in the evening.
Yep.
So now I'm eating less 2 meals a day, I'm eating less than I should than I need to if I was to train both of them together. So I mean, I like how I split it up, and I'm getting the fasted workout twice a day. There's just so many benefits to it that I really enjoy.
And
So,
it all kind of engendered itself from you taking the time to focus on being selfish.
Yeah, on me.
Which we're going to take a commercial break, and I want to focus on that some more because I've noticed a correlation with selfishness and something else as we go. So I want to bring that up when we come back from our commercial break.
As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well.
All right, we are back from our commercial break. So Justin, before we went to a commercial, I said that I wanted to talk about a correlation I see with selfishness. And I think in my observations of myself and other people, don't you think that selfishness is kind of comes full circle with people?
Yeah.
And it comes with age? So I feel like initially when you start off when you're young, you don't have the ability to empathize or sympathize with other people. And well, I shouldn't say you don't have the ability, but there's a little bit more of a selfish nature. You know, when you're a toddler, you're focused on hunger and sleep and getting what you want. And then that continues kind of through your youth where you're very me-centric. You know, you're focused on the things that benefit you. And then that kind of, in my estimation, peaks at your teenage years where you kind of have these blinders on you. You don't really focus on anything else but yourself. And I know that there are people out there who are the exception. I mean, we had Liam Kearney on one of our episodes who is a Catholic missionary who dedicates his time training because he's a Division I football player, dedicates his time training. And then on top of that, going to third world countries and building homes and schools for, you know, the poor. So I know that there are teenagers out there who aren't inherently selfish, but in my opinion, that seems to be when it peaks the most frequent. Well, then you go through this early adulthood where I found myself becoming more compassionate, more understanding of other people. But as I've gotten older through it, because I'm transitioning out of young adulthood and what I would consider into normal adulthood, for lack of a better term, I see myself getting more selfish. And then when you look at the elderly population, sometimes they come across as overly selfish. So I feel like you're super selfish, and then you go through this brief lull where you're very understanding and compassionate. Not that selfishness doesn't mean compassion or understanding, but then you become selfish again. And with me and you, it seems like what we're doing is as we get older and we learn the importance of self-care, the importance of self-worth, the importance of setting boundaries, we're trying to establish these things, but still focus as much as we can on keeping that empathy and sympathy. But it's a hard balance.
Right. It is a hard balance. It's hard to focus on yourself and everybody else. But,
especially when, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but
you're
especially when there's something specific that you're doing. So I would use the example of you preparing for your first triathlon or me doing a bodybuilding show.
Yes.
Like when you're in a prep scenario, you have to be selfish with everything. And that's where mentally I become conflicted because, you know, you could run into an instance where people are upset because you're not, you know, doing something that they need you to do or want you to do because you're being selfish and they think that you're being selfish. And,
right.
You know, sometimes that's a difficult balance to keep.
Sometimes it's hard for people to understand, and then sometimes it's hard for myself to understand why I choose this over that. You know what I mean? And not anything particular. I can't think of a topic like right off the top of my head of a particular instance, but it is sometimes it's hard to justify being selfish, but I know that I have to.
Yeah.
Because when I do, everybody benefits.
Well, honestly though, do you have to justify it though?
No.
To people? Should it be a requirement? If you want to do something to benefit you, should it be a requirement for you to go to someone else and have to present it and justify it and rationalize it to them. Because this is a conversation that I've had too. When I quit coaching football, one of the primary driving forces behind that was because I wanted to make money in the training side of things. Mm-hmm. So with football, I wasn't there for 10 weeks in coaching the season and then being done. I was there every single day for our strength programming. At minimum, I was spending an hour and a half to 2 hours on football every single day.
Right.
And a lot more than that if you incorporate the mental side of things that I was doing and how much I was stressing about things. And, I was taking our kids in the summer to powerlifting meets and going to 7-on-7s. And, there were times during summer periods where there would be months at a time where I was the only coach the kids would see.
Right.
And that became a full-time job for me. And one of my driving forces behind quitting, and I've talked about this openly on other episodes, was I needed to improve my own life. And I needed to get paid for the work that I was dedicating to certain things. And I, told people, I said, why would I come here for multiple hours a day when I could go to the gym for multiple hours a day and get paid for it? And I felt initially that I needed to justify that to people. And I thought, no, I don't. There's nothing. And one of the things that gives me a little bit of peace of mind in that decision was the fact that that doesn't take away my ability to help the kids. Right. So when I left coaching, it wasn't, I'm leaving coaching, I'm no longer helping the kids. Because unfortunately I had that discussion with some parents who kind of interpreted it that way, thought that I was giving up on their kids. And I said, no. I still have a relationship with your kid. I talk to them daily. I see them in the school. I help them with their strength programming. They have lifting questions or nutrition questions. They ask me every day. I answer them. I still, to this day, kids that graduated several years ago, I still take them out to dinner on the weekends. Like, we still talk. And there's definitely a connection that's still there. And then in the gym, I felt like, if they wanted to further the amount that I could help them, then they could come to the gym and, come on as a client, which many of them did.
Right.
So it didn't lessen my impact on them at all. But initially I felt like I had to justify that to people. And I had to explain, well, I know it sounds bad that I'm getting out of coaching to focus on myself, and it sounds very selfish, but that was absolutely 100%, without a doubt, the best decision I ever made. And I have zero regrets, and I will not go back to that lifestyle where I'm doing too many things for free. Right. Now, do I do things for free? Certainly. Do I want to help people out? Absolutely. And even as we're having this conversation, I still feel like I had to throw that annotation in there, right? I had to say, I still help people. I still do things for free. Like, so there's that part that's ingrained in me that I feel like I constantly need to reassure people that even when I'm selfish, I'm not that selfish.
I think that's a product of our environment because we live in such a judgy world now.
Yeah.
Where everybody judges every book by its cover instead of reading the first page.
I wonder how our conversations, like these conversations, I wonder how our podcast conversations would come across if they weren't ever released and we knew they weren't released. Not that I feel like, I wonder how much of a subconscious level do you and I play to the voices or play to the ears that are going to listen to this versus, because I don't ever question, if I'm being genuine or not.
No.
But I wonder if there's a subconscious part of me that would word things differently, say things differently. For example, with talking about getting out of coaching football. I wonder if I knew this wasn't going to be released, if I would have felt the need to say, but, I do give back a lot and I still dedicate a lot of my time. And, lo and behold, I'm still coaching because I got wrapped into wrestling after there. I sometimes can't say no. But I wonder how much of our conversation would change if we knew that people weren't listening. And what I think about, and I'm sorry to stand on the soapbox here, but what I think about is the conversation that you and I had earlier when I told you about in the locker room of my high school where it said, champions are made when no one's watching. And we had the discussion about being a leader when people aren't necessarily following you or you don't think that people are following you. And are you the same person? And I love this because this is a perfect segue into a conversation I had at the gym last night. So last night I was at the gym and I had a conversation with someone who kind of had an epiphany or a wake-up moment and said, hey, I need to talk to you. Unfortunately, the conversation was pretty brief because I was getting into training someone. So I was about ready to start, quote, work. So the conversation had to be brief. I would have really liked to delve deeper. In fact, I texted this individual this morning and said, hey, in regards to our conversation last night, I really liked that. Thank you for opening up. Kind of want to have this discussion again. Told me that this particular individual has been going to the gym for several years and hasn't made progress. And it's due to illusions that this person is putting out there. So this individual said, I'm coming to the gym. I'm acting like I live the lifestyle. I'm talking like I live the lifestyle. And I live the lifestyle while I'm here. But when I go home, I don't live the lifestyle. I eat things I don't want to eat. I do things that I don't want to do, or not necessarily. I don't eat things I don't want to eat. He went to find comfort in things. So this person said, I wasn't getting my meals and following my meal plan like I should, and I've finally looked back and said for the past 4 years I haven't made enough progress. And I thought that that's a really deep conversation, or really, it requires a lot of fortitude and almost like a lot of courage to be able to look at yourself and say, man, I didn't do anything for the past couple years. I mean, a little bit of progress, but not nearly what I should.
Right.
And I told this person, I said that it's really motivating for me when I see other people making progress, because then I say, well, if this person's add 50 pounds to their bench, and this person added 10 pounds of muscle, and this person lost 30 pounds of fat, well, I should be able to do those things. What's my excuse? Why can these people do it and I can't?
Right.
So it was a pretty cool conversation to have when someone gets to that realization that they need to kind of buckle down, focus on themselves, and live the lifestyle.
Wait, it's walking the walk instead of talking the talk.
Yeah.
Because and I think everybody does it for a minute. Goes to the gym and goes through the motions. And because they love the atmosphere, but they don't love the dedication at first, right?
Well, there have been times when we have the full transparency. There's been times when we've had conversations on here about dieting, and then when I'm done, I'll go to Taco Bell drive-thru.
Right.
It happens sparingly, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And then those are the instances where I need to sit back and kind of be reflective and say, wait a minute, you're not walking the walk. You were just talking the talk for an hour.
Right.
But now what are you doing?
I've been there, done that myself.
Everybody has. And I think if people were truly genuine and honest with themselves and with other people, I think that we would find that happens a lot more frequently than people would care to admit.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And you said this on a topic months ago. It feels like where the bodybuilder, right, comes to the gym eating out of Tupperware with no condiments and just drinking water out of a gallon, and as soon as he gets home, he's dunking Oreos and milk and doing whatever, just drinking sodas and just living the life. And it's like, why? To me, it's like, why dapple with uncomfortability? Why not just get uncomfortable?
Yeah, either go in or don't get in.
Right, because it's half the day doesn't help, unfortunately. Because if it did, everybody would be perfect. Because everybody can do it for half the day. It's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not saying that you have to get up and go to the gym at 3. I'm just saying it's doing the thing. It's like you said, champions are made when nobody's watching.
Yep.
It's and I've heard that for my whole life. Not that exact thing, but do the right thing when nobody's around. So that's something that my work, we've preached forever.
Well, it becomes habitual then.
Yeah.
So like with your training or your nutrition, if you're eating the things that you're supposed to eat when people are watching, and then you go off your diet when people aren't watching, that is a habit.
Yeah.
And then it becomes ingrained in you. Likewise, if you were to just go full in and say, I'm going to eat what I'm supposed to eat on this diet, then it becomes habit, and you don't have to think about, am I eating the right thing or am I not? It's just habitual, and you just do it.
Yeah, it's like, my wife and I and her grandmother stopped at Bob Evans. It was really, really not busy, and her grandmother hasn't been out since the coronavirus, really.
Yep.
So we took her out to breakfast, and well, breakfast for her because she sleeps like a night shifter. It's weird, but it was her breakfast time. It was close to my dinner time, and it was, the thought process goes through your mind. Well, I guess I could just order something that's not exactly on the plan, and then I'd pick something, and the waitress comes to the table. Her grandmother orders, my wife orders, and then I say, "Give me 2 chicken breasts and 3 orders of broccoli." Not what I wanted, not what I thought about, but it's habitual.
Yeah.
Because it's what I eat at home. It's the same food. And bring me some mustard, please. Because I put mustard on everything. But I don't understand how I got to this place. Because I was never habitual to the point where I didn't have to think about what I was eating.
I disagree.
I mean, I never before. Oh, okay.
I disagree.
Okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
I think.
Because I think that you were habitual, and that was what led to the downfall.
Right.
Now you're just making good. You're a perfect example of someone who made all the wrong choices with their health and now makes all the right choices with their health. And what the difference between that is. When you go from someone who is habitually eating the bad things and not exercising, and then habitually eating the good things and exercising.
I'd say a good example, but perfect is tough.
Yeah. Very, 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 very good.
Well, thank you. I try. I mean, it's to have goals and dreams as big as I have to be as close to 100 on everything as possible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm going to run out of lifetime before I get there.
Yeah. And I think that everybody needs to have that same sense of urgency when it comes to goal setting. For me, for example, with bodybuilding, I tell people all the time, like my training, that's why I get so serious about training and nutrition and those sorts of things, because I'm not genetically gifted enough during a contest prep to slip up.
Right.
I can't afford that because I'm going on stage in front of people in, my underwear, less than my underwear essentially, and I'm getting judged based on how my body looks, and I'm going to embarrass myself if I'm not perfect because there's people with a lot better genetics than me up there, and I need to make sure that I do everything the right way in order to come in at my best. So I think that you would be amazed, not you, but you as in the audience or anybody out there, would be amazed at how much you can accomplish when you have the idea that you're going to do everything perfectly. Now, that's not practical or feasible to do everything perfectly, but you're going to try to do it perfectly.
Absolutely.
Because if you have 1,000 things in your life and you try to do all 1,000 of them perfectly, at least you're probably going to get half of them done perfectly or close to it.
Right.
So I think that with anything, you need to strive for perfection. And that kind of goes in line with what you were saying. Why dabble in uncomfortability? It's like getting in a pool. If the pool's cold, don't just kind of go in gradually because you're going to stay uncomfortable for a long time.
Take the plunge.
Just jump in and you'll be fine.
I can't remember who it was. I have a friend on Facebook. He said, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I can't remember. He said, the decision is to either give some effort, give all your effort, or get all in. Something like that. And my comment, without even thinking, I kind of liked it because I liked the direction of the post. I knew where he was coming from. This gentleman at the beginning of the year started fasting. Like long term, like he's trying to do 48, 60-hour fasts and then eat a small window and then go back into it again. And I respect the effort because that stuff's hard. And so I'm really trying to be encouraging and help this guy along. It's a guy and his wife. And I answered the question because it was basically phrased as a question. And I said, jump in with both feet and without any thought, because that's the only thing I could think to do. Like with me, it's like I had to jump in with both feet, because if I would have walked down the steps, I'd have got back out.
Yeah.
If I knew where the steps were, I was climbing back out of that pool. So if I jump in a deep end, I got to keep swimming or I'm going to sink, and I don't want to sink.
That's a really good analogy. I like it.
So yeah, man, this game is all about just go for it. Like I talk about all the time. David Goggins talks about, being uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's 19 degrees outside is what the thermostat on my truck says. And I'm going to go outside and run with wet hair in a few minutes. Do I want to be uncomfortable? The old me? No, not at all. The new me? Yes, absolutely. Because if I'm uncomfortable, what can I do when I'm uncomfortable? And then compare that to what can I get accomplished when I get comfortable, right? So like, if you can get this much stuff accomplished when you're uncomfortable with it, right? Running on this road in a rainstorm at night is uncomfortable. But imagine if when I did my race, the fastest 5K I ever did was in a triathlon on this road that we're parked next to, and it was because I trained uncomfortably.
And at the time, then it was like 75 and sunny.
Yeah,
exactly. So it was a nice day.
It was awesome. I trained all winter long, and in the crap, and then for the time so we can optimize the effort.
Yeah,
and that's just it. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it any other way, but who's going to carry the boats? To quote David Goggins, right? Mm-hmm. There's only one person you can expect to carry your boats, and that's you.
Yep.
So, that's it. Just carry the boats, man. Just get in. I love it.
And I think that's what's so interesting about trying to chase dreams and chase success and be a better person is we have these conversations literally on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And we continue to hit the same topics repetitively, but I feel like they're continuously worth mentioning. And then when we have guests on, we find that they hit on the same topics.
Right. I was going to say the same thing.
So I don't think that it's that complex. We go back and forth with a lot of things about how we feel about this or how we feel about that. But it seems like these common themes are common for a reason, that they stick, and they're not super trendy, they're not super eloquent, they're just basic, but doing the basic things, getting into a basic routine, that's going to probably lead to more success than anything.
Right on. I agree. The basics is like, so I got one story here. I know we're going to get close to the end here. So a real good friend of mine, his kid wrestles and plays football for a competing school against where you work and where I went to school. And he just started wrestling last year. So we were talking the other day, and he said he's wrestling against a senior, and he's a freshman. And the senior is really good. He's a 3-time state placer going into his senior year, so he's solid. And he's like, I want to be fast like him. And I said, okay, well, you need to work on the basics. And he says, I know the basics. I was like, knowing them and mastering them, knowing them and perfecting your craft, knowing the basics and not having to think about the basics is different. Master the basics. When somebody asks me the first thing about losing weight, I take a page right out of Charlie's book and I say, drink a gallon of water a day. When it becomes habit that you drink a gallon of water a day, that's the basics. That's the first step. It doesn't have to be a gallon of water. It could be whatever the small minutia is, right? Cut out pop. Don't eat cookies anymore. Stop eating bad stuff. The obvious bad stuff. We can critique diets, but we have to be masterful of the basics. And that's it.
Yeah. So when it comes to leadership, or when it comes to dream chasing, when it comes to success or financial independence or health, find out what the basics are and hammer them home. I mean, That's why we have these discussions on a weekly basis, is because we're looking for those basics and we're trying to ingrain them in our own minds, trying to ingrain them in the minds of our listeners. And hopefully leading way to successful years to come for people and
Absolutely.
for ourselves.
I agree. So I did have one like training update kind of thing before we go.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty big on doing these challenges, 22 push-up challenges. I did 3,100 burpees last month. Right at the end of the month, last month, I was scrolling through Facebook and a page called Stop Soldier Suicide popped up on my news feed, probably because Facebook and Google spy on you and my searches made sense for them. I don't care. I was excited about it. I looked into it, and it was run 100 miles in January to raise money to stop soldier suicide. And that's a huge thing for me. I always think about these guys and girls who sacrifice their time and ultimately are willing to sacrifice their life for our freedom and for our ability to have this podcast and go to the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning, and freedom of religion and speech and press and just everything that we have that we take for granted on a daily basis, because we all do.
Mm-hmm.
These people volunteer at a young age. Too often they volunteer at 18 years old and don't ever come home. So, or when they do come home, they're never home in here inside their mind, and ultimately they end up killing themselves. So I was like, I'm in. And I didn't think I could do 100 miles in January, to be honest. I was like, I know I can because I'm going to. Like, it's just going to happen because these guys are worth it. But I was a little nervous. Well, I'll be 25 and a half miles into the challenge in a week. So I'm going to keep an update every week until the end of the month and let you guys know where I'm at. But if you want to donate to the cause, just go to Stop Soldier Suicide on Facebook or Instagram, and I don't even care if you use my fundraiser, because it starts a fundraiser. I don't care. Just donate to it. Pick somebody, anybody. $1 helps, and I don't like to ask for money. That's not the goal here, but these are causes that make sense.
Yep.
But yeah, that's it. So 25 miles of 100 as of today. So,
well, I look forward to next week and hearing where you're at.
Hopefully 50.
That's awesome. All right, everybody. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 60. Thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully we will see you next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge.